Let's start off with the campaigns and keep this figure in mind, because what we know right now is that presidential candidates keen on participating in the next year's State House race can only spend a maximum of 4.4 billion shillings. That's according to campaign financing regulations gazetted by the electoral body, that's IEBC. It's awaiting parliamentary approval though. Presidential contenders will be required to also constitute finance committees and account for their campaign expenditure in an attempt to provide a level playing field for all the players in President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession race. And as Francis Gachuri now reports, gubernatorial candidates in Turkana, Marsabit and Nairobi counties will only be allowed to spend between 117 million and 123 million to finance their vote hunting missions.
On minor issues,
IEBC has triggered the money factor in next year's presidential race. The Commission, in a Gazette notice, set expenditure ceilings for presidential candidates keen on President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession race that will be held on the 9th of August 2022. In a bid to level the playing field, IEBC has limited presidential campaign expenditure at 4.4 billion shillings for the candidates. According to the Commission, that amount of money will be enough for candidates to mount successful vote hunting expeditions in all the 47 counties. In compliance with the Campaign Financing Act, each candidate will be required to constitute a committee to manage the campaign resources and account for each coin spent. The regulations that were gazetted today await parliamentary approval for IEBC to enforce them.
The Commission submitted to Parliament the election campaign financing regulations, which to date have not been approved and or enacted. And we are urging Parliament to approve and enact these regulations so that we can have a smooth operation of the election financing act, election campaign finance act.
And the campaign financing ceilings do not apply to the presidential candidates alone. All other candidates cleared to contest in ward, parliamentary and gubernatorial races will also have to limit their expenditure once the regulations are approved by the House. Those running for governor, woman representative and Senate seats in the 47 devolved units will have to limit their expenditure based on the amounts listed by IEBC. Contestants in Turkana, Nairobi and Marsabit counties will not be allowed to spend more than 114 million, 117 million and 123 million shillings respectively. Candidates in Garissa, Kitui, Nakuru, Kiambu, Tana River, Kajiado and Mandera counties will be allowed to spend between 65 million shillings and 88 million shillings. Contestants in Kilifi, Kakamega, Meru, Bungoma and Machakos counties will have their expenditure capped at between 52 million shillings and 61 million shillings.
The Commission, in compliance with sections 18 and 19 of the Election Campaign Financing Act of number 42 of 2013, set expenditure limits for candidates and parties for the 2022 general elections. The limits set by the Commission have been sent to the government printer for publication in the Kenya Gazette.
Exceeding the set limit or failure to comply with the set guidelines is an electoral offence that attracts violators a 2 million shillings fine or a 5-year jail term or both.
Provisions of Section 18 of the Act gives the Commission authority to vary the limits by notice in the Gazette, so that when the publication comes out, any stakeholder who wishes to seek variation is free to inform the Commission, and that then will be considered.
Political parties will only be able to spend a maximum of 17.7 billion shillings in the entire campaign period. The amount has been broken down to specifics. The ceilings for expenditure on transport is 11 billion shillings, advertising and media 1.8 billion shillings, cost of hiring election agents 1.5 billion shillings, while administrative costs, publicity materials and campaign personnel have been allocated a ceiling of between 243 million shillings and 945 million shillings. Cost of nominations, communication, security and accommodation are allocated the least amount of money in the approved expenditure. A single contributor in a political party will only be allowed to chip in not more than 20% of the campaign cost. The rising political temperatures point to a likely manifest as the country heads to the general election next year. Politicians likely to use parliament and courts to defeat the very regulations meant to level the playing field as the country heads to the general election. Francis Gachuri, Citizen TV, Mombasa.